Hello, welcome to season 2 of Eat This, Drink That. This is episode 5. We got our specialist with food, Ali Khan, and we have our drink specialist, Steve Greer. Today we are bringing you Steve's Drink That. Steve, what are we talking about today?
Well, next week is Thanksgiving. And for some reason, I've never understood this. 21 years in the industry of selling wine, and Thanksgiving befuddles people. They literally, oh my God, what do we drink? There's articles, there's all, wine stores set up Thanksgiving wine displays. I think it's probably because a lot of people who are thinking about having wine for Thanksgiving just don't normally have wine. And wine is...
To be honest, it befuddles all of a sudden everyone's like, I think it's a giant panic.
Yes.
It is on the food side. I mean, and then and then you know what? You know who shows up too? There's the panicker for sure. And I know you'll see it at the store or in the supermarket, big long line. And they're like, how do I cook this turkey? I'm like, will it cook in 3 hours? And it's like, oh my God, there's so many.
And it's still frozen.
Right, totally. You're like, oh, I guess is it raw? But you will have those people, and I'll see it on Instagram, and they are like Rambos. They're like, oh, I started preparing for this war like days in advance. I mean, literally days in advance. But it is insane. It's insane. Thanksgiving is insane. That's what.
Well, it's one of my favorite holidays because I eat a lot. So I am usually starving all day long. And on Thanksgiving, I get to eat all day long. And I get to eat multiple courses. I get to pretty much have drinks and food from 10 to 8 at night.
Oh, wow. And you go for it.
Are you one of those hoppers? Are you with family? I mean, or are you at like some insano restaurant?
No, so...
fish soup
So this year, I'm probably going to have to go to a restaurant just because I just moved to Denver. I don't... but usually back when I lived still in Cincinnati, it was always actually 2 Thanksgivings, which was great because first one was with my family. Second one was with friends. That would go on even longer. So that was more like 10 to midnight.
You would go to 2?
Oh, yeah. And I would eat.
You said 10 a.m. So I was like, what? 10 a.m.?
Yeah. Well, you get to start. You can have some hash or make some eggs and bacon, and while you're cooking,
I love how he goes, I starved all day, and now he's talking about eating freaking corned beef hash.
No, I'm always starving. I don't starve all day for Thanksgiving. I literally am always hungry. So on Thanksgiving, I don't get to eat all day long during the work week or a normal day.
So you wish you could eat Thanksgiving. That's your appetite's preference. Is all day. Just gorge fest.
Yeah. And smaller plates, but you have 10 plates all day long.
Variety.
That's my ideal life.
I love that sliver of modesty. What do you think about that, Crosby? He's like, well, it's it's a saucer.
It's a little plate.
And 19 of them.
But really, Thanksgiving is like a smorgasbord. It's like a buffet, but it's at someone's house. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to finish. When in LA, I went to a friend's house. It was friends' Thanksgiving.
Those are fun.
Orphans, people that aren't from there, no family. And there was 10 to 15, sometimes 20 people that would show up. And it was just an all-day eat and drink, hang out with friends.
Nice.
This year, I'll probably go to a restaurant. I'm going to see if I can't find something really nice. Back in LA, the second Four Seasons, the one on Doheny, read the secret Four Seasons because no one ever knows about that one.
Oh, wow.
There was an amazing Thanksgiving Day fest that they did.
Buffet style or?
No, they bring you courses.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of fun.
Man, that is some hardcore. Yeah. For folks who don't know LA, obviously maybe you've heard of Beverly Hills, but Doheny, I haven't thought about it in a long time. But it's just that road. You know, you drive around LA and it's mostly just like concrete jungle. You know what I mean? It's more like a David Ayers movie. You know what I mean? With that Denzel, I'm blanking on the name, but it's like but Doheny is like, ooh,
Yes.
Nice. Like you say Four Seasons,
Yeah.
Doheny, and multiple courses. How much is that?
So I never went. That was a friend of mine
Oh.
that she went there every single year. I went to my friends every year for 15 years and or 14 years. She went. That was her place. So I want to find that place an equivalent. I never went. I want to say it was $150 to $200.
I was gonna say I was gonna guess 150.
Yeah. We'll see. There's got to be something here in Denver.
What are we drinking on Thanksgiving? What's going on here?
This is really a smorgasbord, so I'm just going to call this a smorgasbord of drinks. And we're going to keep this
say that word one more time.
Yeah. We're going to keep it simple. Drink what you like to drink. Think about who is coming over and say, oh, Ali's a Pinot guy. I'm going to buy a bottle of Pinot. Oh, and Ryan loves beer, so I'm going to buy some really nice craft beer. You might have guests that drink champagne. I would honestly...
Everyone's like a Chardonnay drink. The average wine drinker seems to go towards Chardonnay. It takes no imagination. You just
like for Thanksgiving, you mean, or you just think Chardonnay is like the gateway?
I think it's the easy wine for people to buy, right?
So here's the philosophy on Thanksgiving. There's really no way to pair a wine flavor with all the flavors that are going on that table. So enjoy what you like to drink and what your friends like to drink. You can decide if you want the theme to be a little more festive, where when everybody gets there, you open up champagne, and then you open up 5 or 6 different wines and let people choose. And then you could maybe start with some pre-batch cocktails, so you're not making them right to order as everybody starts showing up. And then you can roll into wine. There's no reason why you can't finish with champagne. Champagne can go almost with every course. I brought some stuff today because there's another thing that you can always end the evening with. We're going to find a way to make a whole episode about this because I love the forgotten wines. So you can call them sweet wines if you want, but the ports, the sherry, the Madeiras, stickies from Australia, things that you just kick back. You're not drinking a whole glass in 30 minutes.
It's like one of these things.
Yeah.
Like I'm an evil general kind of.
Yeah, and you can, yes, the evil general. But you can still use a wine glass. You don't have to have special glasses. We are going to do a whole episode on this. But I'm actually thinking about opening this year. This is a vintage port. Taylor Fladgate is the house. It's a 1992. It's vintage. So vintage is the highest echelon of port. You can also do tawnies, 10, 20.
I think that's a great idea, Steve, because most people, we go to a restaurant and they ask you if you want a drink, an after dinner drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I was super into that at a certain point in my life, getting a cognac or getting a port or a tawny afterwards. And that would probably be a good thing for people to try out if they're hosting a dinner, because I don't think a lot of people order after dinner drinks. And so could be a cool thing to show to your guests, like, hey, here's this other side of drinking, is having these after dinner drinks, because most people they might not have the budget for it. They're full, but it's great to have a finisher at the end.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I want to know, can you just, because you mentioned port, like what's like the kind of the 101 of, like, what do you call this? A fortified wine, dessert wine? What is all this?
They're fortified wines. You have different. This is vintage. Like I said, you can have a ruby. You can have a late bottled vintage ruby port. So those are the ones that they keep the fruit. I was going to call it reductive aging, but they protect it from oxygen. So it stays very, very fruity. And then you have that warmth from the fortification. Or you can have oxidative styled ports, and those are called tawnies. And you
those
can
tend to
have
be
different
on the
years.
white. Would that be like a white? Tawnies would be on the white side of things, and port
No,
on
no,
the
there's
red.
still an assortment of grapes. There's a
Okay.
whole lot of grapes that
Okay.
they're authorized to use.
So it's all grapes, like port, tawny
But
port.
they're mainly red.
Grapes.
Yeah, they're mainly red grapes. There's
Okay.
5 that
Uh-huh.
they normally takes up most of the blend, but I think they're allowed to use 30 different grapes.
And what's the
And then
And it's
tawnies
like
are brown.
stronger, right?
What's that?
It's like stronger, higher
I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
alcohol.
ask, what's the alcohol content on these typically?
You know what? I was just thinking about that. I think it is
in the 20s?
I have to remember. I do not see
Because
it.
right, most wine is what 12, I would say, is average for wine.
Yeah, so 12 and a half is the average.
Okay.
This is 20.
20. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, and wait a second. There are some California Zinfandels that are not far off from that. California Zin might get up to 16.
So what's like the main difference between how does wine go from wine to port?
So it's the fortification. They're using a spirit to fortify it up. They stop the fermentation. That fortification kills the yeast because the yeast can't really survive past, I think it's 16 or 17% alcohol. When they're making a high alcohol Zin, I think they have to have a cultured yeast that helps it push it over that edge, but there's still some residual sugar. So your yeast is eating all the sugar. For a wine that or a grape that had regular sugar levels, the yeast will have enough to eat all the sugars. It will be a dry wine, and it'll only be 12 to 13% alcohol. But if you fortify it, you stop that sugars eating.
The yeast
There's still a lot of residual sugar sitting there. And that's the ruby style. And then if you throw it in barrel and let it age with oxygen, so it's oxidizing, it turns tawny in color, it turns brown, but it turns more nuts and dried candied fruits instead of rich, red fruits and blue fruits and black fruit.
And you said you add spirit? Do you add like hard liquor to
No,
it?
it's a you know what? I got to
question.
go
I was
back and
curious
look.
about that, too.
I think it's a neutral grain spirit, grape spirit.
Oh.
So they almost make a brandy out of grapes, and they use that to fortify it. Stops the fermentation.
Okay. So you mentioned brandy. Is brandy part of this?
No. So
world too?
oh yeah. So Crosby was actually talking about that, wanting a cognac for an after dinner drink. We're gonna actually do an episode on this too, because you have calvados. So these are distilled fruit spirits. So you're actually making a wine from, if it's cognac, you make a wine, doesn't taste very good. Because of the way the grapes grow and the grapes they're using, and the fermentation isn't for flavor; it's just to get it up to alcohol, so you can run it through the pot still and bring it up to 40%. So you're doing 2 distillations, and you get the flavors from the grape, and then you're distilling after fermentation, and then you have a cognac after it's aged. It's actually an eau de vie before it's aged. Then you throw it in barrel for 4, 6.
So you make a wine and then you booze a
Yeah. You distill it like a vodka, and it's amazing.
Wow.
And you have Spanish brandy. You have calvados from Normandy, where they take the sugars from apple. Oh. And calvados is amazing.
Wow.
And no one ever thinks about calvados.
I certainly don't.
You know, it's funny you bring that up. One time, and this was just like what I used to have the worst roasting pan for deglazing, but we'll get to that later. I bought calvados to make gravy for Thanksgiving. Like, I remember the recipe said calvados, and I went to the wine store, and the guy's like, you're going to spend a lot of money
Yeah.
for your gravy. You know, and he steered me to something, whatever. But it was all for naught because I had a roasting pan that it burnt.
Oh.
Like there weren't enough aromatics to trap the juices. There was too much metal, not enough dripping. So I remember I was like, this gravy sucks because I didn't have any, I didn't have enough fat. I had nothing on there. But I had this bottle of Calvados at my parents' house for years because of one recipe. I should have just been.
And are these all running 40% usually, or do they ever run higher, like a bourbon?
Yeah. Oh, they do. If it's depends on the house and their house style, but let's call it 40 for most of these.
So brandy, cognac, port, are they all fortified wines?
No. Well, they're different. Port is a fortified wine. Brandy, Calvados, and cognac are a distilled fruit eau de vie. Wow. So you're taking sugars from some sort of fruit. Your fermentation brings it up to roughly 10-11% alcohol, and then you're bringing it up again twice through double distillation. So it's a distilled fruit spirit.
Okay, so but it's not necessarily grapes, whereas port is
no. Cognac and brandy are definitely grapes. Calvados is apples. It's the same. Think of it the same as bourbon is from corn, and vodka can be from a grain, so it could be wheat, or the best one is rye. You get more flavor from that one. So you're still getting sugars from some sort of thing. And then you're doing a fermentation to get it started, to get it ready. Then you go through distillations to get it up to
and that's brandy, cognac, Calvados.
And then port is just, regular grapes. You start your fermentation. You throw in some neutral grape spirit to stop the fermentation. And you have this rich fire and fruit. Fire and fruit is the way I describe ruby port.
And so,
because there's a warmth because of the higher alcohol.
The viscosity is different on these too, right?
Yes.
So it's thicker.
Yeah. Alcohol itself, by nature, is almost sweet. So and viscous. So as the alcohol goes up, you're getting a richer texture on there. Although, we can go back to Zinfandel again because everybody loves drinking Zinfandel for Thanksgiving. It's been...
He doesn't like that. I can tell you right now, Greer's like, enough of this Zinfandel. You're just getting hammered.
Yes.
He doesn't like it.
And so Zinfandel is a red, right?
Yeah, it's a red grape. And usually, because of where it's grown, they get a lot of sugars in the grape. They pick late, so you get this richness. I'm not slamming on Zinfandel. There are some amazing old vine Zin out there.
But for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean,
but for Thanksgiving.
They are really, really big alcoholic wines, can be. You might have people that don't normally drink a lot of wine on Thanksgiving. They start chugging that Zinfandel. Yeah.
I think
there's a big difference.
The butt of many jokes is white Zinfandel, right? Like a lot of people.
Well,
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
here we go.
White Zinfandel really saved Zinfandel from extinction in California. California had old Zin planted 120 years ago, but it wasn't really in fashion. So when people started taking Zin and just making a blush wine from it, which is just the same as making wine, you just pull the skins out of the juice.
Less skin.
After only like 5, 6, 7 hours, so that it doesn't provide too much color. That's all it is. But it saved a lot of Zin.
And for people that don't know, right, it's more of a pink flavor, right?
Yeah.
And it's not.
Just a little pink.
It's basically it's like a rosé, right?
Yeah, so it's not actually a white.
It's exactly like a rosé. The difference was they would allow some residual sugar to stay in those, so they were all sweet. And it was huge in the 80s. Huge.
It's called getting hammered at Olive Garden.
Yes.
Well, and I think it's notorious for the hangovers, right? Because it has more sugar content.
It's all that sugar that's still in there. But this is a really good point. So instead of talking about, I think the theme of this when you're going into Thanksgiving is to have fun. we're going to show a bunch of different examples of things that I would like to drink
How
on
do we have
Thanksgiving.
fun on Thanksgiving? I have to know.
With Steve Greer.
Don't stress about what you're opening. I mean, it is not
Open it all.
science. We are not trying to do a perfect pairing like a foie gras and a sauterne. We're not, or caviar and champagne. We're not trying to have perfection. We're trying to enjoy all that food and all the drinks and all the people you're with.
Basically, it sounds like how I roll.
Yes.
Exactly. Like, it's like...
So if, Ryan, during the year when you're at a restaurant, you're like, man, I always want to get a tawny port after dinner, but you never do. Grab a tawny port. Have it sitting there for people at the end of the evening. Have, if you want to roll and get some, older vintage port, there are stores that will have some older vintage ports on the shelf. You could get a really nice bottle of calvados for people to sip.
That one might be the secret wild card for this season.
Yes.
Maybe people get a calvados and just, twist their relatives' heads off with it. Who knows?
Yeah.
I will tell you straight up, I guarantee you this Thanksgiving, I'm going to get a dessert wine.
Right.
Or I shouldn't say dessert, I don't know, can you call it that? I don't know if you call it that, but I'm going to get a port or I think a port, maybe more so than a brandy.
Ports are awesome.
But, here's some of the things that I was thinking about. Granted, a lot of people love Chardonnay. It's one of the most popular varietals for a reason. So you could have a bottle of Chardonnay for Aunt Betsy, who's coming over, and she loves Chardonnay.
A little too much, if I recall last Thanksgiving.
But elevate it a little bit. Don't just go and buy a Clos de Bois from the shelf at the grocery store. Go to the wine shop, have your list ready. I need a Chardonnay for Aunt Betsy, but I want something fun. I need that dessert wine because we're going to blow everybody's mind at the end of the meal. Somebody likes Pinot. Maybe somebody likes Rhone wine. You have your list, talk to your wine guy at the store and just say, let's pick some stuff. Always have your budget too, but don't freak out. So that's the theme.
Well, I want to ask you this because I feel like there's an opportunity, frankly, to splurge a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, don't just get the, whatever. Yeah. This isn't like, picnic at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, if you level up on a Chardonnay, it's really good. I find Chardonnays to be quite good if you get, one level higher than the, Kendall Jackson or Clos de Bois or something.
Get a Chablis instead of a California Chardonnay. Get a white Burgundy. And to answer
are those Chardonnay grapes?
Yeah. So those
those
are all Chardonnay. Chablis and white Burgundy are all Chard.
That's cool.
Ooh, that's the pro tip. Go France. I like that.
Very good.
I like that. What are we talking price-wise to get into a Burgundy or Chablis?
So I don't want to ever think I know everybody's budget, but I think 20 to 30 is a very nice wine.
That's pretty
not really going too crazy. You can, if you want, like this. This is a Bordeaux Blanc. This is Blanc de Lynchbage.
That's beautiful.
I'm a big fan of Blanc de Lynchbage, so I have like 5 vintages. I have a vertical now of this. That will have to be a special evening where we open all 5 bottles.
Wait, what do you mean by vertical?
So like it's multiple vintages. I have 2013, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
This guy.
Oh my God. He's like comic book nerd right now. Like, I happen to have a signed Superman. And on open Superman.
You know what's funny?
Show me your Star Wars dolls, Greer.
They're in the closet right here. I have all of them.
He killed it.
So I'm telling you, wine nerds are not far off from record store nerds, comic book nerds, movie nerds.
Wow.
It's a different thing. Okay. So anyway, this is Bordeaux Blanc, this is Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. There's a different texture and weight and flavor to these wines that would be a lot of fun for, you have some people that like white wine but really don't care what it is. And Aunt Betsy loves Chardonnay. So buy a couple bottles of that, have those open too, and make her try it.
And then what would...
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's always a good thing. Because once she realizes she doesn't have to live off the wine list, California Pizza Kitchen.
Yes.
Is that restaurant still around? I don't even know.
Yep.
I will say this: white Bordeaux is delicious. And I've had, I swear to God, I'm dating myself, but I remember getting a $10 or $12 bottle of French white wine, and I was just like, keep it coming. Yeah. Like, it was no headache,
nope,
clean, not too buttery or vanilla-y and all that BS, you know, like just clean, and not even clean, just like just like it's understated.
Yeah,
you know.
Yes. Here's another grape that is on every wine writer, newspaper wine writer's list for Thanksgiving. Every single one will say
the B word.
Riesling.
Riesling.
And I will agree with them because I freaking love Riesling. This is a from the Mosel. This is just a Riesling. You can get different sweetness levels. You can get dry, which is called Trocken. You can get Halbtrocken, which is medium dry. You can get wines that are a little sweeter, which also means richer. But
these are German.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Or Austrian. Austrian makes really beautiful Riesling too.
That's like Germany 2.0 in my
Yeah. Sure. Exactly. It's not that far off.
I feel like my family
different
would bust
climates,
out
different.
Gewürztraminer. Is that a wine?
You could. Usually, I find that Gewürztraminer is a little polarizing. Not everybody likes Gewürztraminer because it's very floral.
Not Aunt Betty.
Yeah, not Aunt Betty. She hates it because it's potpourri, and she's like, "This is dumb."
So if you had to do two whites, you would say go on the Chablis white Burgundy side, and then the Riesling side.
Yeah, or a Bordeaux Blanc for fun if you want to think outside the box instead of a Chardonnay. Riesling is super easy because there'll be non-wine drinkers usually at your fair, your Thanksgiving, that will love Riesling. Yeah. Everybody loves Riesling. No one ever buys Riesling. So once they try it, they're going to love it.
Nice.
What were you about to say?
You know, it's funny. I always feel like the Rieslings and the Gewürztraminer, it's always like, that's like the wine you get if you're like, oh, what should I have with Thai food? Because it's like spicy.
A little sweetness to it.
On the sweet side or whatever. But I always kind of think of them together. It's now, you know what? I'm going to give Riesling another shot. Because I don't really drink. I drink white wine when it's hot outside.
Yeah.
I don't think about it as much.
What do you get usually, Ollie? Do you get like a Pinot Grigio or something, or?
You know, it's kind of funny. Like, our Thanksgivings have just been kind of all over the map a bit. But I think the most recent one, which was the genesis of this, which was last Thanksgiving, I had reached out to Steve because I had literally been saving a bottle of Bordeaux that was given to me as a gift that had reached its optimum drinking age. It was a 2001 Bordeaux, and it was 2020, and I was like, I have to drink it now. So it was a red, and I basically made the meal around two factors: this bottle of wine and the fact that it was just me, my wife, and son. So we did like filet Oscar, so filet mignon, crab meat, hollandaise, béarnaise, right? And I opened up this wine, and after I had the wine, that's when I reached out to Steve going, how do I do this again and not buy this for $600? You know, because at this point, trying to find a wine that's that old, whatever.
Was it room temperature or was it chilled?
It was red, so it was chill. You know, it was room. I mean, I had it in the wine fridge for 15 years. I decanted it. It was smooth AF. You know, like that was the coolest part about it. All the times where I'd have Bordeaux's and I was like, it just didn't hit me right. I'm like, I don't know. It's not that great. I mean, like, I wasn't bad, but I was like, I don't get it. But that was just smooth. You know, it was like, it just creates a flow, you know, and that's what I think when I think about, say, the white Bordeaux's too that I've had. You're just like smooth, you know, like it's just like iced tea quencher a bit, you know, like it's not sweetened, it's not freaking soda, whatever. It's not like weird Diet Pepsi in the 80s. You know what I mean? You're just like, ooh, you know, and you know, I guess like Pinot Noirs were big. You know, the other thing for me was like, and I'm waiting for Steve to bring this up, I swear to God, Thanksgiving, you go to the wine shop and you know what you see everywhere?
Beaujolais.
They're like, "Oh, Beaujolais. Did you get enough Beaujolais? I'm like, I'll just get all this Beaujolais. It only exists one time out of the year.
What's
what
the
hell
story
is
with
up
that?
with Beaujolais? And I was never wowed by it, but
What's
it was
the story with Beaujolais?
That's funny. We're going to get to that. So, because there are the generic recommendations that come out every single year by every wine writer everywhere. Riesling, Beaujolais, Zinfandel. Those are the three. We're going to talk more about Beaujolais and Zin. That is a really good point. You have to also tailor this to how many people you have coming. If it's you, your wife, or vice versa, your husband, or your partner and your child, and you don't have that much. Remember, we talked about this on maybe a Instagram Live. Vacuvin or Coravin. So center the meal around one really nice bottle, which we're gonna get.
That is freaking radical.
Yeah. There's no reason why you have to be your whole evening is just the one bottle and maybe something else you open. You can actually course it out. We're going to be doing some baller bottles here in a little bit, right at the end of this episode. So you could center it around a baller bottle like Ali's 2001 Red Bordeaux, which Red Bordeaux is at its best with a lot of age, and that's when it becomes totally different, smooth and gorgeous and complex and layered. So you center it around, then you buy 2 other bottles and you Coravin or just have a glass each. Like, we're going to start with this beautiful dry Riesling from the Mosel, and then we're going to move into a really nice glass of Chablis, and then we're going to end, our meal is going to be centered around our baller Bordeaux or baller Burgundy or baller Brunello, whatever you want. Barolo.
Wow, so you can really, because that's what happens, right? Once you get 3 glasses of anything, then it's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me more.
Especially with all that food, you're going to go to sleep after those 3 glasses and all the food you just ate.
Totally.
Yeah. So you buy the bottles, you do either Coravin or the Vacuvin. If you Vacuvin, you get all the oxygen out, and then just leave it in the refrigerator so it really slows down any oxidation, and you can drink that over the weekend. Because remember, Thanksgiving isn't just one day, it's 4 days. Everybody's off, except for the poor people that we make work at retail stores for Black Friday. Almost everybody is off for 4 days. So you got 4 days that you can enjoy these bottles, but your little party of 3 or 4 people at your house, you got to enjoy 2 really nice glasses and 1 baller.
Nice.
So, but
that's cool.
Let's go back to like the larger party, and people are bringing 10, 15 people over. It's always good to think, if you're trying to figure out how many bottles to buy, just 2 glasses per person, because Aunt Betsy's probably going to have a bottle all to herself, but Uncle Uncle Fred isn't going to have any. He's over there sipping bourbon. So just tally up your amount of people. You got
chewing tobacco.
Yes, you got 12 people coming. Just you need 24 glasses. That's 6 bottles. That's it. So just divide your number of people by 2, and that's how many bottles. And then if you want, just buy a couple extra just in case. So we've talked whites. We're gonna go to some things that I'm thinking about opening. You can go French, and you can go Loire Valley. I'm just going to bring up Loire again. We've already done an episode about it. I got another bottle of this Chinon because it was so good. That is Cabernet Franc. So remember, in Loire Valley, you have Sauvignon Blanc, you have Chenin Blanc, you have Cabernet Franc. So you can play around.
This is a red or a white?
Things. This one's red, so this is Cabernet Franc.
Okay, gotcha.
But it grows differently there because it's cooler climate, so it's not that fruity. It's more elegant and really good acidity to cut through all that food that is happening on the table.
So I feel like what happens is people think what wine to have for Thanksgiving. They think turkey, poultry, white wine, right? And then the reds that somehow get allowed into the party are this whole Beaujolais conspiracy, right? I feel like, and maybe this was just a preference thing, but I also think that I think it's fair to call Pinot Noir like a medium-bodied kind of wine that's like kind of chill, pals with pork. You know what I mean? So I guess my question about the Cab Franc is, how will that go? I mean, and look, Thanksgiving's more than just like pairing it. It's not like you're having borzet turkey. Right. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of stuff with it. It's heavy, it's rich, it's fatty. Maybe you did a turducken. Yeah. Maybe it's more than one animal. Maybe there's 7 animals involved. How does that Cabernet Franc pair with turkey? Because I think some people might get thrown by red wine, poultry.
I never even really think about pairing with the turkey. I think about the other things. Everybody has mashed potatoes and gravy, stuffing and gravy. You got some rich flavors. You got some sort of green bean casserole that's going on that's nothing but fat. Yeah. You got a lot of fat on that table. Right. So Chinon has a little more acidity. Acidity cuts through fat.
Nice.
That's the best way to think about it.
It's interesting. Years ago, I remember I was on a big roast chicken kick, and I was at a Whole Foods, and I was looking for wine. And the guy's he started giving me red. I'm like, oh, really? Red wine and roast chicken? He goes, oh, yeah. Yeah. You're bringing roast chicken? Oh, yeah. And it's because the fact is, it's not, chicken can be so different.
Yes.
A poached chicken breast is going to be far different in terms of flavor, hence pairing, than a whole roast chicken with all that fat and drippings in there.
And this is probably a holiday where people are having dark meat for one of the only times of the year, because everyone gets the chicken breast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A bottle of, this is a whole nother episode. We can go off on so many tangents, but a bottle of nice red Burgundy and a roasted chicken is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That's good to know. Okay, so we did Cab Franc, Loire Valley.
What's next? We can go to some of the other mainstays. Pinot Noir. This is actually a Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir from Hearst Vineyards. This is less fruit and more acidity, so I like this for a big meal, the food all over the place. You can also have just a really nice Santa Barbara Pinot towards the end of the evening after you're done eating that is a little richer and fruitier and soft and elegant. Pinot Noir should be the go-to for everybody instead of Zinfandel.
Good tip.
I love...
Oh, that's Greer's hot take.
Yeah, I love Grenache.
That's his hot take. Yeah. Pinot over Zin.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And if you're going to do a Zin, do a heritage Zin. Somebody who is known for Zinfandel. There's a winery called Beaujolais that makes this wine called Black Chicken. That is amazing.
Okay, first of all, that could be the coolest wine label I've ever heard. I mean, that could just be... You could have said Black Chicken. Crosby could have been a band. I mean, we could go over it.
Yep.
We could. It's a grill. Oh, yeah, Black Chicken. They make the best grills, dude. It just sounds so...
I also love Grenache. You can stay in the Rhone Valley in France, like a Côte d'Rhône or a Gingondas. You can go village level, Gingondas, Rostal, Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Or play around. There's Grenache grown all over the place. This happens to be from Washington State, Yakima Valley, from Hundred Sons. I love this wine. So, nice. Pinot Noir, Cabernet Franc from Loire, Pinot Noir, Grenache.
That's a wild card. I like that.
Yeah. All right, Côte d'Rhône is very, very pleasing to everybody. If you threw a bunch of wine on a table and you had a little Côte d'Rhône in there, you had that Beaujolais Nouveau, and a couple other things, people are going to drink the Côte d'Rhône. Côte d'Rhône is going.
I didn't see the Beaujolais Nouveau. What's up with that?
So we're gonna end. We'll talk about Beaujolais towards the end, but we're gonna go baller now because I am definitely opening a baller wine.
That's dope.
I love Bordeaux. Ali knows this. Burgundy is very difficult because it's more expensive. This is easier to find and get into and age. I have some Burgundy. It's still not ready. Burgundy is harder to find. If you find a great shop that specializes in Burgundy, hit it. You're going to have fun with it. Burgundy is amazing. It's Pinot Noir. and Chardonnay. But you have to find the right shop because there's a lot of bad Burgundy out there, made by co-ops, and they're buying grapes and negociants. But Bordeaux, you can find some labels that are always going to be around. I've been aging. I have two 2000s. So this is Grand Puy Lacasse. This is a classified fifth
Like
growth.
it's 20 years old, 2000s, or like?
Yeah, so this is 21 years old, and more importantly, I always like to think of things how long they're in bottle. So this would have been bottled right around 2002, so it's 19 years in bottle. That's when the second start of the aging process in aging wine really starts.
So that's been in a bottle since 2002, but you said it was a 2000.
Yeah, so it sat in barrel for most of the time. So they made the wine, then they age it in barrel for 14, 18, sometimes 2 years, depends on the
good
state. Then they bottle. So I always like to think of, serious wines that have gone through 2 aging portions. So it was aged in the barrel. That was the aging process number 1. And then there's a second aging process that happens in the bottle. The alchemy of aging in a bottle is totally different than the barrel aging. So this wine has completely changed.
Wow. I mean, that is massive.
Yeah. This wine does not taste anything like the day they bottled it. Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing like it. So I might open that, or I have a Cologne Ségur 2000. These are my last of my 2000. So you almost get slightly possessive when you're aging wine. And you're like, oh man, this is my last bottle of.
Like comic book guy and his Star Wars doll.
Yes.
How much do those bottles cost?
So
I mean, you said baller.
I think when I bought these, I even bought these on a late release. I didn't buy them when they came out. $100.
Wow.
Both of these were about $100.
How much do you need to buy now?
I don't know. I haven't looked them up. You can always look this stuff up on winesearcher.com. You can say, oh my God, that bottle I had in 2019 that I had been aging was so good. I want that experience again. Type it into Wine Searcher. Type in the vintage.
I literally am going to do it right now. What
is 20 years a sweet spot for aging?
Depends on the estate, but yeah, that's anything over 10.
Obviously, like super rich people are buying these things already aged. Is that? Can I guess that?
Well, no, they're buying them and they're storing them somewhere in some immaculate wine storage facility. They don't even look at them.
What if you want one right now? It's 20 years old.
Yeah, and so those are the guys that will also release it 20 years later at a store that does consignment or auctions. So every year they're buying, 1 to 5 cases of every first growth, and they're putting them in a wine storage facility. And in 20 years, they're going to say, I'm going to sell all of my Bordeaux. Wow. And it'll go on an auction, or it's an investment. It can be an investment. Yeah. But usually you need a full case unopened. That's going to get your best results.
What's the name of the wine? I got to look this up.
Okay. Type in Grand, Grand, space, Puy, P-U-Y, space, Lacoste.
P-U-Y.
Yeah, P-U-Y, and then space Lacoste, just like Izod, L-A-C-O-S-T-E.
Yeah.
Then make sure you're typing in 2000 vintage. It may or may not be there.
Chateau Grand Puy Lacoste. Yep. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I was ready for like monster prices. I mean, I'm seeing a range from 145 to 173.
Yeah. This is one of the secret chateaus too, because it's not, cool and hip, and the broad base of Bordeaux drinkers don't think of Grand Puy Lacoste. They're thinking probably Pontet Canet, the Pichon, some other chateaus. This one usually has a very good price, and I love this estate.
So far we got a $100 bottle of wine at Thanksgiving, and then we got maybe 2 that are in the 20 or 30 range.
Yeah, these are all like, these could be 30 and up somewhere. This Chinon's only like 20. I forget how much the Hirsch Pinot is. I think these might be closer to 50. You got the Washington.
Pinot's expensive.
Yeah, you got this Washington State Grenache, but Côte de Rhône, I mean, even if you just go Côte de Rhône Village, it's usually under $20.
Yeah. Well, I think this is, if you have the little vacuum vin thing,
Yep.
I think this is an opportunity to be like, you know what, have a nice glass of wine.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Like have a nice glass of wine for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Like not for a party for 100 people.
Right.
Every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
the last baller is more of kind of a guilty pleasure wine for me. I love Clinay Pomerol. So this is Merlot. This is from the right bank, or the Saint-Emilion and Pomerol are Merlot-based wines in Bordeaux. This isn't left bank. This is right bank. A lot of people don't even think of these wines. Clinay, I just love Clinay. It's richer. I love the style.
That's a style of wine. That's not the brand. That's a type of red wine. Am I?
Well, no. So the Chateau Clinay.
So
that's the
gotcha.
estate. The region is Pomerol. The grape in this bottle is mainly Merlot.
Gotcha.
This is a 2012, so this is almost 10 years. 8 in bottle. This is probably 7 years in bottle. I bought a few of these of this vintage. I have several vintages of this guy too. It's a guilty pleasure wine. Because it was an off vintage, I paid less money. But Clinay always makes a good wine. Almost every single.
You call it a guilty pleasure, like why? I mean, some people refer to that as like I ate at Arby's.
Right.
Like,
Cheap? Is there cheapness to it?
No. That's it was an off vintage. I think these bottles were $80 each. In a great vintage, they might be $200 each. I call it a guilty pleasure because in the wine geek world, it's not that cool and hip. But I don't really care about being cool and hip. I like what I like.
What would the cool hip version of that be?
Wow.
Oh.
It's a guilty pleasure on an ego trip. You know what? But that is a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Because when people say, oh, I ate Arby's, you're like, but Arby's is gross.
The wine geek world, it's Loire Valley, so the Chinons of the world. You're going down to Savoie and Jura, so outside of the Rhone Valley. Those are the really geeky wines. The natural wine movement has blown up. So wine geeks are really into somebody who's doing a natural winemaking approach. We can talk about that in a later episode. Bordeaux is, kind of the stodgy wine for a lot of wine geeks. They don't really even drink a lot of Bordeaux. I love Bordeaux.
Right on.
Yeah. What else?
So those dip ones, what were they? Those weren't Bordeaux?
Well,
the other ones?
No, all 3 of these are Bordeaux. The ones that we just did are all Bordeaux. But
no. The wine geeks.
The wine geeks aren't drinking Bordeaux. They look at Bordeaux as stodgy and old and
pedestrian.
Boring. But they also aren't aging it. They're not buying the right estates. I love Bordeaux.
Nice.
So
okay.
Yeah. Collectors love Bordeaux. So we have a whole assortment, but we just need to think outside the box. Don't worry about what wine writer is putting in his article, and you can try some of those wines, but you don't have to stick to those wines. Don't put blinders on and be in a tunnel vision on how to approach Thanksgiving, and definitely don't be nervous about it because people are already freaking out about cooking. So don't also freak out about the drink because that's the easy portion.
What about this? Look, I mean, it depends what time you start really, but I like to sip on something while I'm cooking or whatever. Any thoughts for the juice for the chef?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you can start with that Bordeaux Blanc. I like starting with champagne. Yeah. I think
You know
sitting around
what?
drinking
Makes
champagne while
something
you're
special.
cooking. Come on. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, God. Wow. He
Well,
was
you know
aggressive
what?
with
I
that
think,
answer.
correct me if
He
I'm wrong,
was.
but I feel like wine and emotion are attached a lot. You know, people go on these trips and to wine,
Yes.
and so that I think what's kind of cool about you maybe introducing different wines during Thanksgiving is they're going to associate it with a great memory. And right,
Yeah.
and because
Yeah.
I don't know, I think wines are so emotional for some reason. You have a
Yes,
great
they are.
dinner on the at the winery, and you want to replicate that experience, and so you start buying that type of wine to take you back to those memories. Yeah,
Yep. So why not have those wines at
yeah.
Thanksgiving? Who cares if a wine writer doesn't think those wines are going to go well with Thanksgiving? You're going to drink it sometime that day and you're going to enjoy it and it's going to recall that memory and you're going to also have stories to share with all the people that were there. We haven't even talked about Brunello di Montalcino or Rosso di
I
Montalcino,
noticed that.
Spanish wines, Portuguese wines, and that's mainly because there's a lot of people that go to Tuscany on vacation. So they're going to have their first experience with a Brunello or a Rosso, which is Sangiovese. Um, People go to Spain all the time, and Portugal, and they're like, "Oh my God, I was sitting in a cafe in Spain or Portugal in Lisbon, and I got this bottle of wine, and it was €6 or €10," and they're blown away how much they liked
Mhm.
it for that price. Now, obviously, there's no transportation cost, so it's going to be a little less expensive because the winery was probably 30 miles away, 100 miles away.
Yeah.
But recall those experiences. Oh my God. I was in Barcelona and I had this Priorat. I want to have that for Thanksgiving.
That stuff is
Yeah.
Well,
good.
I
So
thought about that
do
when
it.
you said the champagne, Steve, because like, you know, champagne is associated with celebration and like good times, and that's why I thought that was a cool tip to say, hey, give, you know, the chef, get him started off on champagne, or you know, get your guests started off on
Yeah.
it because it puts you in a celebratory mood, I think, instantly.
Yeah. My friend's
Yeah.
Thanksgiving back in LA every year, I brought 2 bottles of champagne. I bought one really nice one that I would show up early so the host and his wife and me could
Hmm.
drink it. And then I had
Mhm.
another bottle of champagne, not that was less in quality. I just brought something really nice to share with the people that invited
It
me over
wasn't
to their house.
cooked or
Then
Andre.
another bottle of champagne. Yeah, for all the other people that showed up because they like drinking champagne too. Um,
Yeah.
Before we go, I don't know how we're doing on time, Ryan,
We're
but
almost at an hour. Yeah.
okay. I thought this was going to be a long episode. Let's talk about Beaujolais.
Okay.
I drink Beaujolais all year long, but I
Wow.
love
It's
Beaujolais.
not a scam.
Yeah. There is something called Cru Beaujolais, the 10 villages of Beaujolais. It's all the same grape. Beaujolais is all Gamay. You can have Beaujolais Nouveau, which is why it's so associated with Thanksgiving. It's not allowed to release until I think the second Tuesday or Thursday in
Mm.
November. So that's
Uh,
right before Thanksgiving. And it used to be huge. In the 80s and 90s, it became a genius marketing thing in the United States. Every wine shop would buy a pallet of DeBoeuf, George DeBoeuf, Beaujolais Nouveau. There'd be festivals down the street at the wine bar or the restaurant. Everybody is just drinking Beaujolais Nouveau. All it is it's a harvest wine. It's a celebration of the harvest. They make a wine very, very quickly, fast fermentation, put it in a bottle, and everybody's
Hmm.
drinking it within a few weeks or a month after harvest. Maybe six
Okay.
weeks after harvest, depends on when the harvest date was. But then you have just Beaujolais Village. So they're buying fruit from all over. But for $30, sometimes 25, depends on the producer, you can get a Cru Beaujolais.
Okay.
That is
mm,
unbelievable.
How do we spell
And
crew? How do we
it's
spell crew? Okay.
CRU. And we can post a whole list of the
this is good, you know. Because I think it was always Beaujolais Nouveau that I
yeah,
had,
of
and it was
course.
basically like a light red.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it wasn't too different from like
Like a
no one's mad at Mister
would that be like kind of a
Coteroon.
Yeah.
You
table
know what I
wine?
mean?
Yeah.
he's not number one on the guest list, but he'll get it. You know,
Yeah.
he's a pleaser.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I was asking about.
But I've never thought about going baller on the Beaujolais.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And you don't have to drink Beaujolais at Thanksgiving. Save that for Tuesday night in January.
But the Cru, it's only Nouveau that's released in November.
Yeah.
The other ones,
everything else is just another region in France making a high quality wine. It's Beaujolais Nouveau that took over the word Beaujolais, which is why I recommend not having it for Thanksgiving, because people are going to associate it with Beaujolais Nouveau, either not try it or not understand what they're drinking, and they're going to gravitate to some of the other things that you already put on the table. And then for that Zinfandel thing, think of heritage Zinfandel producers, either Old Vine Zin, high quality producers like the Bialy Black Chicken. They also make another 10 or 15 single vineyard Zinfandels that are amazing. Think outside the box. Don't just get pigeonholed and feel guilty going to the store. And I'll be very honest, buy at a wine shop. You're going to have a little better selection. You might have better pricing. You're going to have a little more fun shopping. Think of it as everybody likes shopping for Christmas for other people. Think of it in that way. You're going to the wine shop to spend an hour hanging out, talking to some person, wine guy, wine girl, and buy a bunch of stuff that's on your list and maybe one or two things you didn't even think about.
Yeah.
And you got the VacuVin, you got the CoreVin idea. You could open up 6 bottles of wine and just say, hey guys, whatever you want to have. And then at the end of the evening, what's left, you can VacuVin, throw in the fridge and drink over the weekend or next weekend.
That alone has honestly persuaded me that, and frankly, I'm shocked that you have a bottle of wine. You could go out and spend, it sounds crazy, but it's Thanksgiving, $150 for a bottle of wine that's essentially a 20-year-old bottle. I mean, anyone's going to look at that and be like, whoa.
Yeah.
2000.
Whoa. They're going to say, whoa.
This was before high-speed internet.
Yeah.
Just think about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Why not get a baller wine? You know, older Bordeaux is...
Just one bottle.
Yeah.
Just one bottle. Everyone gets the glass.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a game plan.
Yeah. And older Bordeaux is a little easier to find out in the market than an older Burgundy, older Barolo, or older Brunello. It's just a little easier. There's a little more of it. Collectors kept it for a reason, and then they're reselling it. I bet that wine, when it was released in 2002, was $50.
So, hey, I got a question about the cognac to sort of wrap it up. Let's say we're just we're not doing wine, whatever. It's, who did we say it was? Uncle Fred. He's having...
Uncle Fred is pounding bourbon.
And chewing tobacco.
So, you know, again, I think that cognacs, we have sort of the two basic ones that people get, right? Which is Crevassier and Hennessy. But both of those brands, I believe, I'm thinking of when I go to fine dining, they when they offer Crevassier and Hennessy for an after dinner drink, these are not the standard bottles that you buy for a night of drinking with friends, right? These brands offer a higher, I don't know if this is maybe the XO, VSOP sort of distinction between those stuff. Do you have any thoughts on this, Steve?
Exactly. So Crevassier to me is a little sweet. So I'm not going to bash Crevassier, but Hennessy is the hallmark. There's different levels. So it depends on what you're ordering at the restaurant at the end of the evening. VS is the youngest. The SOP is a little older. XO, I
feel like XO is usually the one.
So in the case of Hennessy, it's like it's 10 to 30-year-old cognac. So it aged in barrel for up to 30 years. And these aren't age designated. They're just the quality designation. There is some rules on how old it has to be. But some producers age a little bit longer. Hennessy ages their XO up to 30 years old. Their VSOP is somewhere, I think, around 8. And then you can buy some of the smaller producers. And then There's the weird Solera method Spanish brandies where they take a little bit of each vintage, and it goes. Think of it as a pillar, and at the top you have the youngest, brand new, fresh brandy, and at the very bottom you have stuff from 60 years ago that is still kind of sitting in that barrel. Because after you pull from the bottom barrel for your bottle, the next barrel above it has to go into the bottom barrel because you just took a bunch out. Then all the way up to the youngest barrel. It's called Solera. So that bottle you took out of the very bottom barrel is a blend of all these years. And it's a completely different experience. No one ever thinks about Spanish brandy, but it's excellent too. It's a different grape than what they use in cognac. Cognac is just easier to find, although cognac's experiencing the whole broken supply chain because everybody drank it. Now there's not a lot, especially Hennessy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So cognac's on shortage?
Yeah, especially Hennessy. If you see a bottle of XO, just buy it, have it at your house so you can sip it and enjoy it.
Would it be fair to say that if someone is, going to have the cognac at their Thanksgiving, they should, level up, go one shelf up on the cognac?
Yeah. Go one shelf up. If you drink VS, Uncle Fred in his spit cup drinks VS cognac, get him VSOP. Or if, everybody likes VSOP, just get an XO. Have it at the house. It's going to last.
I mean, I'm going to tell you this. I don't know. I can't tell you when I've had. I think my father probably poured any of this kind of stuff way back when. Yeah. Like, no, like I can tell you, me walking away from this conversation, for sure, I'm going to look at like getting some kind of baller wine. I think for my house, it might be a really nice Pinot.
Yeah.
And probably one of the Pinots I used to chase. Living in California, it's like kind of the splurge wine. So I definitely am going to go for a baller. And for this finisher, which I never thought about doing, I think I want to go for that port.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Definitely.
Steve, this is so much information.
I think even thinking about, it's so hard because when you're actually making Thanksgiving, so much, especially when you're cooking it, you're like, is it done? It's done, right? And then you have to serve it, and it's like, it's just a freaking time. And to be honest, for years, I've been making freaking prime rib.
Yeah.
Because turkey's a waste of time. It's so much work. It's so much work to make a giant chicken function for me. And then it's just more, even, how many people do you need? Like 12, 15. It's like, oh yeah, everyone have a little bit of protein inside. The meal of Thanksgiving's always thrown me for a loop because I grew up in a family of 3. I'm currently a family of 3. And then even if we have other people, like how many more people am I cooking for? You know what I mean? Like, whoa. I'm not, you need multiple cooks. So, making a freaking standing rib roast from Costco in my Traeger is like light. It's insanely good.
Yeah.
It's insanely good. And it's easy. So I end up going kind of more on the red side. But now I'm thinking about courses where I could kind of show off white wine and things like that too.
Have a fun Chablis or start with a bottle you can get a split. You don't have to get a full bottle of champagne. Get a 375. You and your wife.
Oh, we'll get the full bottle.
Okay, good.
That stuff's
good.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Come on.
And then
I'm not worried about
roll
that.
into
But I'll be
a glass of Chablis. And then roll into, get ready for the baller wine that you've decanted. It's ready to drink. You're going to have it with the...
Even just a cheese course would work, right?
Yes.
With like that Riesling.
Oh, yeah. The Riesling, the Chablis, the white Bordeaux, any cheese. Cheese and a little bit of some sort of potted meat or pate.
Now we went that route.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, I can feel the gout set in.
Oh, I know. It's so good.
Wow, this was very, very
good.
informative.
All right, I've got some marching orders. Yeah. I'm going to get a baller Pinot. I'm going to get, I think, a port. And I'm definitely going to explore, like, an interesting white. Riesling, it's just, I'm like, why am I drinking this? Yeah. You know what I mean? What's going on?
Yeah.
Greer has entered my brain. just to have fun with that,
Yeah.
you know, maybe with like a baked brie and Riesling. And I don't know.
Oh my God.
Ton of stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Cool, you guys.
That's why we
do.
drink
Episode
that.
number
Yes.
5.
You know?
Any
Yeah, this was
very
fun,
fun,
guys.
super informative, Steve. There's a lot to unpack here, but I think we got some really good, some basics and some very complex information to work with here. It's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. This episode was sponsored by Vacuum.
Well, cool, guys.
Hey, and
I guess let's wrap it up this time, and let's have a great Thanksgiving. You know, let's have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah. I can't wait for next week.
All right, guys. Well,
awesome.
Oh, leftovers.
Yes.
I almost want to cook a turkey because the whole point
turkey
is
sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Next week. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll pull something out fun for us to talk about next week because it's going to be the leftover episode. So, you know, maybe we'll think of outsider drinks to go with the leftovers. We'll have something fun.
Well, thank you so much for this one.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
Yep. See you guys.
Good night and good luck.